Hey,
gorgeous, darling.
are we looking gorgeous? We are looking gorgeous to each other at least.
On the inside out as well as the outside in.
On and on it goes. So I am Nell. I'm just a guy who's into mental health, technology, plants, a former Airbnb superhost, and I'm here with the Tracey Hodgkins, my mentor, friend, boss, fairy godmother, inspiration, and it goes on and on. Hello, here we are. Finally.
Hi, Mel. How are you?
I'm good. Just had a few tech things to sort out, like we do.
Yes, absolutely. Always. It's the battle, isn't it? You've got
Everything.
all this technology on one side, and on the other side, you've got yourself. And actually, we're the limiting factor, aren't we? Because we're not sure how to use that technology to its best.
Yeah, and it brings up anxiety, and then we become afraid of technology, which is something I'm very aware of. And then we just
Yes.
can't be our best selves, can we?
No, it's very difficult. It really is.
Yeah. Well, we got here, and hopefully
Yep.
someone wrote that down, how we got here. Otherwise, we're going to end up doing the same thing again. Half an hour of just starting a video. Um, so about us, we've known each other for how long? Since
Oh, it would be 20
20,
something years
a
now, probably
quarter of a
20.
century.
Yeah, about that.
Oh, okay, that's where I leave a meeting. I think I was younger than that when I met you. I wasn't even. I think I was 20 or something. And I've been reading your blogs on your website, and we'll get into this. And you mentioned the Advantage program, which I
Yeah.
always bring up in different contexts about what has formed me as a person. And you are a huge part of my formation, which is still not fully formed. But um, what was the Advantage program, and how has that related to us now when we talk to you regarding your sustainable host
Both.
project? Mm.
Well, I actually went to university myself for the first time about 1999. I enrolled in a business course. Before that, I'd done TAFE and I'd done a few other things, etc., but I'd had a lot of business experience. So I enrolled in university thinking I'll get this huge amount of knowledge given to me and that would make everything better. And I realized within the first 6 weeks of being there that university is very limited. It's actually narrow point of view. It doesn't widen the point of view. So it gives you skills like critical thinking and how to write a wonderful bang up academic paper. But when it came to the real life experience, where people could needed to get jobs, need to sustain jobs, needed to live in the real world, I found it was very much lacking. So I put together a proposal for the dean of the business school at the time. And I said to him, I'd really like to run a program that gives all these other skills. And I outlined the program. And he actually said yes on the spot and hired me.
Really? You were that
6 weeks
convincing.
into it, must have been
Wow,
six
that's
weeks
impressive.
into a university degree. And that started the journey with the Advantage program. I didn't know at the time, but they were going through an accreditation process with an overseas accreditation body. And they lacked terribly everything to do with real life, anything. So kids were going through and not being able to get jobs at the time. And so there was a bit of luck in that, going into it, proposing it, and then doing it was a little bit of luck, but it was also a damn good idea,
It
and
was.
it was. And we had not just a few, but thousands over a 7 year period enroll in these programs, which basically put a student into a business context of some sort. They chose whatever business they wanted to do, mostly in the not for profit sphere, so that they could gain experience from what they're learning and apply it into the actual degree part of what they were doing, as well as outside getting experience. So it gave this amazing
Advantage.
real life advantage to those
Yeah.
students going through. And
Mm.
as you know, you tell me about your experience.
Well, I was hugely attracted to your program when, so imagine I'm in an engineering space, so a bunch of nerds, somewhat emotionally disconnected, and I'm hyper emotional. Like for me, programming and IT is a way to make my life easier and to be creative. Didn't know why back then. I do know now, but I was instantly attracted to the soft skills aspect because that's something that I employ with everything. When we did group assignments, it was me that had to look at everything and make sure everything looked palatable for the teacher, thinking about the teacher's personality in mind. If there were presentations, I would design them and try to create the narrative. All this creative stuff I was trying to put into my very cold engineering degree,
Mm.
and the opportunity to work with different types of people in different departments. Because there's a lot of boxing in like, oh, they're just the arts department, they're just the media. But I'm like, I like art and media is cool because I'm into media now, right? Like why I never understood why we needed to box things up and not communicate. Even at work, with my work, what has given me opportunities is my ability to integrate all the departments to work as one. It's almost like an
Okay.
organic body, right? So if you have a body where your brain doesn't talk
Oh.
to your legs and your eyes don't talk to, that is just
Yeah,
mush on the floor.
it
Um,
is.
and your program really solidified how that worked in the real world and validated the way that I thought, but also gave me the confidence to assert that part of myself. And I made some friends through this program. Still keep in touch. We're very fond of each other,
Lifelong friends.
and there's
Yeah.
love. Like we say, like so. I'm a gay man, and there's a very good friend of mine who's Sri Lankan male, straight family, and he tells me that he loves me more than I say the word love. I'm like, but it's because it's so human that there's love that comes out of it as well,
Yes.
um, which is something that I'm very, as someone who's coming into the mental health space, feeling that love aspect, not romantic, but
Mm.
the heart. It's so cliche, but it really is what is sustainable for me in everything that I do.
And you're saying that correctly. I mean, at the end of the day, we have a very long life now. You know, average male lives to 84, average female lives to 86, and we've got to live the life. So work is part of that life, but what happens is work becomes the life.
Mm.
And I feel that for a person to be successful and always to be sustainable throughout their life, they have to have a very broad amount of skills. And that was the learning that I myself had gone through. And I bought into the Advantage program, which I created. And it has helped so many young people like yourself now, which is great. And it's won over 70 worldwide awards, which is fantastic, and made me a Telstra Businesswoman of the Year and
Mm-hmm.
all these other things. And it was literally what I would call common sense. But I realize now that common sense is not common. And I've brought that right throughout everything I've done. And I think learning is something that you integrate. So I've started off in the entrepreneurial space. I've started off in product development and arts. I've gone into music, and I've gone from music into more development of products and services, and then into education. And then from education, which lasted and is still lasting a long time, from various different institutions, from a university to a self-managed and self-aware organization where we taught those things to leadership to other people. And then from there into TAFE Queensland. And then from there into something which was completely off the wall, which was farming. I
Yeah,
mean,
that
I
was a
never knew
surprise.
anything. That was a real surprise to me.
Yeah.
But what I have realized along the way is there's commonalities in everything, and
Mm.
it's people skills. You know, I've learnt the people skills. I've learned how to manage a business. I've learned how to work with profits, not for profits, corporations, the lot.
Mm.
So your education isn't this little box that is
Mm.
university. It is the box of life, you know, and
Yeah.
that's it. It's a box of life.
Education can be very limited in its institutional aspect, right? It's almost
Exactly.
patriarchal and it's also colonial in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the heart is removed from it more and more, right? Um,
It is. And unfortunately, that's something that's happened a lot in the world of business, is that there was no heart and it was quite ruthless. So now we're seeing these trickle of B Corps coming in, which have a lot more heart, and people are starting to accept that you have to take care of the whole world. Otherwise, if you don't, you won't have a world at all. So I think that's where that whole sustainability thing comes into it. That's been my ethos for quite some time, is that you need to think of us as a small part of a bigger entity. And our impact, we have an impact on everything we do. And
yeah,
that's the thing, on the people around us, on the world around us, every single thing has an impact. Why not make it a good impact?
exactly. It actually sounds like you're all about relationships. So we're talking about our relationship with the environment and the earth, which if you
Yes,
pull back, we're just one little dot, right? So we need to
we're
make this
not.
work. And everything, we're literally on a globe, so it will come back around, right? Like we're in a contained system.
Absolutely.
So we have to get
Absolutely.
these relationships right with everything that we do.
Yes, we do. And I think people don't think of themselves in that terminology. You're so caught up in your everyday life
Mm.
that you don't think of yourself in that context at all. And so everything from, like, I've been an Airbnb host now for, well, I shouldn't say Airbnb, it's actually short-term rental,
Mm.
because Airbnb is one small part of the larger rental platforms that are out there.
They're right
So
here.
I'm a short-term rental host. I've been that for the last, 5 years. I've taken that context into that. How can we make this the best possible experience for others? How can we make sure that it doesn't have a larger impact on the environment? How can we make a positive impact on our town?
Mm.
Everything comes together. How do I actually make sure that my neighbors aren't disturbed? It's that
Absolutely.
kind of thing. Everything comes into, and it culminates in that hosting experience. And if we think of ourselves as alone in that, it's
Hmm.
not true. And if it's problematic in our attitude, then it will be problematic in the way you act everything out. So you've
Mm.
got to come at it from a positive impact point of view. That's my thoughts anyway.
Which our world is almost narcissistic in terms of what is success, right? And you're
Yes.
talking about the opposite, but the
Yep.
trick is you're talking about success in a lot
Yes.
of ways. And within sustainable hosting, um, you know, making money whilst being caring and maintaining our relationship with others and the environment is something that might be a myth. I'm still for me, I know when it comes to health things, there's always a premium. So is there a
Mm,
premium in this space where you need to is there a sacrifice element to this? Like why should we embrace this as something that's actually sustainable?
I don't think there is a sacrifice as such. I think you're adding to something rather than taking away from something. So you're adding to the good in the
Mm.
world, you're adding to the prosperity of the world. And remember that these places that do this short-term rental hosting make money. So they're
Mm.
adding money into the environment that's around them as well. So is it bad or is it good? My town would not be here except for tourism. So where are people going to stay if they've only
Mm.
got two hotels with I think there's about, oh, I don't know, 15 rooms between them, and we hold festivals. Where does we need our short-term rental hosts in this town to be able to actually bring people into the town to spend money at the shops.
So
That's
it goes
it.
beyond it goes
Yes,
beyond the space. It's the sustainability of that community.
exactly.
That makes a lot more
Exactly.
sense to me.
It is everything that you do is good for everybody. But like I said, you've got to do it in that right context. So, say, for example, in my unit downstairs, it's got a gorgeous balcony, overlooks Bridgetown's oldest farm. So the aspect is wonderful. It's covered over. They could have a wonderful party down there, but I don't have parties at this particular place because I think it takes away from the neighbours, which might be quite some way away, but actually is not good. And it's also not good for the environment to have a ton of alcohol cans and bottles, etc., all over the place. It ruins the environment. So I say no to those things. I have couples and families that come downstairs. I've made that decision constantly. And I live up the top of that B&B for that particular one. It's not the only one I've got or have had, and not all the things that I'm interested in, but I've done everything I can to make that environmentally friendly. We've got solar, we have rainwater that we use to water the gardens, we have no chemical that's used in the cleaning products. We use silicone-free shampoos, and any additive things that are going to be bad for the environment, don't touch any of that, you know? We let our animals in. We let dogs come in because dogs are so good for our mental
Mm,
health.
I
I
love
hate
dogs.
to leave
I miss
my
having a dog.
pets at home. Oh, it's terrible. It's really bad.
I need one in
And
my life.
I would hate to be one of those hosts that, say, well, you've got to leave your dog at home.
Mm,
It's not good. So everything I do and have done right through the decor, I chose everything that was sustainable downstairs,
mhm.
from what I put on the walls to low VOC paints to I redid the vanity myself. I picked tile offcuts, the whole lot was done with sustainability in mind. And it cost me a whole lot less than it would be.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get tile offcuts
Yeah.
or end of line a lot cheaper than buying brand new tiles that are,
How do you find
trimmed.
that? How do you source these things where you are in the world? Like what's that for me
Well,
that might be a
well,
challenge.
yeah. No, look, there's a lot of places. Like, for example, downstairs here, I got tiles off a neighbour. And the neighbour had finished,
Mm,
with her run and had them left over. So I went, sure, I'll do that. Another thing was one of the doors that I had down there, I actually repurposed from upstairs because as part of what we're doing, the council made us put in a staircase rather than have it as a separate unit down there. So we put the staircase in and we thought, well, how can we make sure that we repurposed everything we did? So I did. I repurposed the doors to downstairs so that I could have a double opening door to the bedroom, which is great for accessibility, by the way.
yeah.
We can have people who have disabilities come into our unit because there's absolutely nothing that takes them upstairs at all. It's all flat from the driveway right through to the bathroom.
So you tick the accessibility and the
Yes,
sustainability
absolutely.
through your creativity.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking
Everything.
from a mental health point of view, when you embody something, which I can see this is part of your core, that
Yeah,
opportunity with the tiles, you might not have seen if it wasn't something that was within the forefront of your psyche. So maybe part of
exactly.
it is the mental shift, the knowing of what it looks like.
Correct. Absolutely. If you go into it with a mindset of sustainability, it will become sustainable because that's what you're looking for. And I did the same things when I built the tiny houses out on farms. We were the first fully regenerative. Now, let me just explain regeneration for you.
Please do.
Regenerative activities are ones that not just offset from the environment that they're in, they actually add to the environment they're in. So we it's great for accessibility, by the way. You
Yeah.
know, we can have people who have disabilities come into our unit because there's absolutely nothing that takes them upstairs at all. It's all flat from the driveway right through to the bathroom.
So you tick the accessibility and the
Yes,
sustainability
absolutely.
through your creativity.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking
Everything.
from a mental health point of view, when you embody something, which I can see this is part of your core, that
Yes,
opportunity with the tiles, you might not have seen if it wasn't something that was within the forefront of your psyche. So maybe part of it
exactly.
is the mental shift, the knowing of what it looks like.
Correct. Absolutely. If you go into it with a mindset of sustainability, it will become sustainable because that's what you're looking for. And I did the same things when I built the tiny houses out on farms. We were the first fully regenerative. Now, let me just explain regeneration for you.
Please do.
Regenerative activities are ones that not just offset from the environment that they're in, they actually add to the environment they're in. So we made sure we did plantings out there. We made sure that we did that we that every part of that tiny house had no impact on the land. So there was composting from the toilets. You know, the water is rainwater. We've got big rainwater tanks which actually service the whole tiny house. Solar on the roof, fully sustainable in every way and off grid. There's no way that has hardly any impact on that land. 750 hectares, and every 100 hectares you'll have a tiny house. It's not bad. It's a great little experience for people too. And talk about the mental health aspect of it. Do you know what one of the biggest problem is for us? Is we're on grid all the time. We are answering our phones constantly. We're on our computers. And guess what? When you go off grid, you don't have any of that. And all of a sudden, you're in a different headspace. You're having to go over paddocks to get to these places. It's in an environment that is just so gorgeous. You're looking out in peppermint trees. You've got the sea noise in the background. It's just a relaxing environment. And that's, I think, the most important. It's got to encompass our mind, our body, the environment that's around us, the things that we use, how we use everything. We need to be able to switch off. So when we switch back on again, we are refreshed.
It sounds like a place that I just want to book purely beyond the sustainability, just for a break, because I'm within tech and it gets overwhelming and pulling away is so difficult
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yes.
And even with the notifications ignored, you're still curious. But within that space, it for me, I think because I love plants and there's a lot a beach background noise for me is so relaxing. And it doesn't require me to download the file.
Yeah.
I would probably not even be curious about my own. There goes my phone dinging right now. I would probably forget about my need to be engaged in tech within that space.
Mhm. People do. Often, especially when you've been in a city, when you come into a country environment like that, which is literally on a regenerative farm, so regeneration from the farming perspective, well, so the soil is kept by the animals in the area, putting the manure back into it. They don't use any of these horrible fertilizers or anything like that. They're fully regenerative. They're fed grass, these beef. The taste of these beef when they are processed is amazing, if you like meat. Of course, a lot of people are vegan, fine too. But when you actually measure meat against plants, there's far more energy that goes into plants than meat because you've got to clear so much land. You've got no trees to offset anything.
So
So,
you're looking holistically, the whole picture you're looking at.
holistically,
Yeah.
it's a holistic environment that they're in. And I think that's really important. We kind of forget that we're not stuck in a city. We're not stuck there. We can move out of the city. We can go and holiday in other places. And I think people, especially after COVID, crave going to other places, you know, and often they'll get on a plane to do that without actually knowing their own backyard first. And that's from an Australian perspective. But if you're in Spain or if you're in Italy, I'd say the same thing. It does not matter where you are. You need to be able to know your backyard before you can truly understand and appreciate it.
And have the mindset of wanting to look for that. Otherwise, you will be flying
Absolutely.
unnecessarily to have the same experience, or even a less full experience, because you'd be closer to the contribution part of this experience.
Absolutely. Look, I've traveled around Australia several times now, literally in a caravan and then in a bus, you know, and then in a caravan again. And my husband's building his own camper from offcuts, mind you, mostly downstairs at the moment. So we use everything that we have over and over and over again. You should see his wood pile. It's massive. Down to when we built this house in total, we took every offcut, which they were putting in these big bins, and we went and salvaged everything from that. And you know what? We have used it and we still use things over and over. Why buy new if you've got old that's particularly good, especially with some of the way woods are now? You cannot just get sustainable wood anymore because the old red gums and everything's being phased out. You can't just cut down a tree. You have to wait for the soft pines, which it's not a very good wood compared to our marry and carry and everything else that's out there.
Absolutely. And it's almost like the industry is encouraging you to chuck that into the bin and then buy another one.
Yeah.
Like that things don't last.
That's right.
There's heirlooms along. Go on.
Yeah, go on. No, we even go out to their farm and collect all our firewood every year. People have it delivered. We go and chop it. And when I say we, I mean my husband, actually. I don't do anything.
As a team.
He does. I help him collect it, you know. So it is
or direct it.
I think. And by doing that, we're helping with fire safety because we've got to clear all the brush and everything that's dead, and things fall off trees all the time. Using that means that it's clearing. So we've always got free wood, funnily enough.
And that costs less money, doesn't it?
Everything can cost more money. Having solar. Look, I did the calculations, and in my workbook area, you'll see how to do calculations. So, and that's a free download from the Green Your Airbnb.
So tell us the URL again. So okay, let's plug the book now. So the book is called Green Your
Airbnb and make more money.
Make more money. True. And on the website, you can download the free ebook. What's the website?
Go to Amazon. You go to Amazon to get the book. So you can get that in ebook or paperback, or if you're in the States, you can do a hardcover. And then after that, it says how to get the free download for your workbook. And your workbook is like the action part of the other book. So it means that you can read it all, understand it, but then action everything as you're going. And I'm a very big fan of action.
I love how you make things easy for us. For me, my whole life, you've always not simplified, but you've made things more manageable in terms of something that might feel overwhelming. So you're very good at breaking things down and landing us back into reality in terms of what's possible.
Well, that's how I do it. I always think from the point of view, why should we make it difficult? Why use big words when small words will do just as good a job? You know, there's an awful lot of academics out there, and I'm not one of them, that actually believes that the longer you make something, the better it is. It's absolutely not true.
That's the separation part. That's the me, you.
Exactly. That's right. So I like to make things actionable. Everything I've done all my life, actionable. And I like to help people. So I truly, truly, truly want people to be successful in whatever they choose. And that could be one thing yesterday and another thing tomorrow. It doesn't matter. It's whatever you want, and you change as you go. I mean, everything changes. I wasn't going to be an Airbnb host when I was 21. I was going to
Mm.
be a fashion designer.
Why have you settled with sustainable hosting as
Mm,
opposed to fashion or
mm.
sustainable food production?
Yep.
What in your core has led you after all these exposures to so many different worlds? Haven't been able to keep up in the years that I've known you. Um, why have you landed in this space?
Because it's important. It's more important than anything else. That's the start. So, one of my TAFE degrees was in fashion, as you know, but I actually studied textiles within that. I was one of the first students at Central TAFE in Perth when they put their fashion degree together. And before that, I'd studied art. I love the thought of using natural products, reusing, repurposing. So I used to do things like take a pair of jeans, cut it up, make it into a ball gown, dye it with natural dyes, whatever I could do. And that wasn't done at the time. And when we're talking a good, I hate to say it, about 35, 40 years ago here, it's a long time,
Mm.
and it wasn't fashionable at all to do that. And I found the attitudes of the other students and the industry as a whole something that wasn't sustainable. It turned me off completely because of the way they went through their fabric, the way they were putting unnatural fabrics together. It just wasn't something that actually resonated with my core values. So going out of that and coming into other business streams, I mean, I was doing sustainable product development for a long time, where I was taking things and making them and designing them and putting them into people's homes, so home decor stuff. And it was only because I got really ill from doing some of those businesses, and that's why I ended up going to university because I thought I'm just going to be bored if I lie here in my bed.
Mhm.
So I thought, well, I'm just going to get out of it, and I'm going to go to uni. And even at uni, like I said, it's really difficult for me to fit. I've never fitted a mold ever. And I think over the years, I've thought to myself, God, what an advantage is that?
It is. And you taught me that. You taught me that because I'm neurodiverse. I don't never fit into
Mm,
everything in my life in a lot of ways. And you were the first person who gave me that advantage aspect that this is a superpower potentially, and to not be afraid to assert that to improve
yes,
things.
yep. The biggest thing for me is that I've never been someone who's valued money. I've always valued everything else more. So I've always, every time things go out of balance, is because everyone's trying to make more money. I don't try and make more money. I have enough money to do what I need to do and sustain myself and my family. And I don't need the billions of dollars that a lot of people are going for. And I think that's been a good thing for balance for me. And I've learnt that balance over time. I started off a workaholic, and I've now come back into stopping at 5 o'clock every day, taking the dogs for a walk, going out, getting the balance in my life, going into nature. I go to the park. You've seen some
Yeah.
of my videos,
I'll stop
we go
messaging
to
you after 5 p.m. So like I'm just out going for a walk. I'm like, okay, I need to wait to respect your boundaries, which I should know
and I
more about.
just Yeah, and I absolutely adore the fact that you do send me little bits and pieces afterwards, and I can choose or not choose to actually answer those. So that if I answer, it's because I want to, not because of anything else. And I do love speaking to you. You're such a little bright light.
So
And
you're
it's
still doing it.
fantastic.
You're still uplifting me.
Well, that's because I really value your contributions to everything, and your help in this has been fantastic. I wouldn't say that I'm the best at technology in any way, shape, or form. I'm a good technology user, but am I a good technology creator? Probably not as good as I could be. And I'm learning, but it's not easy.
You definitely don't have fear of it. I don't think
No, no.
you dip all your toes, and if you had more, you'd probably get more involved. But I love
You
that
get
you
frustrated.
we both get frustrated, and I'm not perfect either. I think we reach a consensus in terms of what works, and we'll keep making it work. So this does bring me back to tech and how you've spoken about that enabling you to be more sustainable
Mm,
within a hosting space.
yes.
How can tech, if tech gets in our way so much, be a part of the sustainable hosts
Mm.
strategy?
Well, I think without tech, no one knows you've got a short-term rental at all. Nobody.
True,
No.
true.
Okay. So number one, you absolutely have to use it. The frustration is that a lot of the platforms, the algorithms don't allow you to showcase yourself enough because it chooses things seemingly at random, which is very difficult to deal with. So I have my own website as well, and I actually get people booking in through that, which makes it a lot easier. I can do direct bookings. But when it comes down to the actual other things, there's pricing apps, there's all sorts of other things, PMSs, which are project management systems, etc., which can actually help you to take the time back in your day. So when you host on a platform like Airbnb, it sounds easy. But when those bookings are going up and down all the time, you want to be connecting a whole pile of other platforms which have different eyes on it all the time. And so to do that, if you do it by what they call an ICS, which is, integrating into each other's back end, it can get lost sometimes. And sometimes, like I had a person come to me about 2 weeks ago, and she'd actually put the wrong link in to the wrong place. And so she double booked somebody.
Oh,
So a PMS actually can
I've done
help
that.
you not double
It's
book,
so
which is
stressful.
wonderful. It's very, very stressful because she had to go to a guest, and the potential is that that guest might go, "You're incompetent. I'm out of here," because you've got other choices, don't you? Millions of choices, in
Can
fact.
easily lose that reputation or relationship.
Exactly.
Do you talk about this
Yes.
in your book?
A little bit, but I'm actually going to go into that in more detail in my blogs.
Okay,
So
so we
I'll be
should.
going into each particular, because there's 1,000 platforms to choose from.
That's true.
So it's a case of, and it costs money. Everything costs money. When you're putting something together in a space, you need to make sure it's worthwhile. Otherwise, you could spend all your money doing all of that
Mhm.
and not actually make any money. So everything's got to balance out. So I keep a massive spreadsheet, which I will be putting up into my hosting tools on the website, thesustainablehost.com. And that will help Airbnb hosts to keep a track of everything as well. I know exactly how much money is coming into my account. I know exactly what I'm earning every single year, where each of the platforms are performing on all of that. I know how many guests, I know who they are because I keep an email list. And the email list goes out through MailChimp, another technology. So all of these things come together to work to make things better. But there's problems with all of them. So you've just got to actually be able to go through it and say, right, it's a problem. So what? Let's fix it. And therein comes all of that attitude again, because I can see people. I'm in some of these Airbnb groups on, on Facebook, etc. And I think it's all about attitude, how you potentially look at a problem. What is a problem? A problem is something to be solved. And I see problems happening all the time when I'm looking in groups. The groups go through, how do you do this? How do you do that? And there's so much negativity that goes into each of those groups and some positivity.
Like
But the
Facebook
reality,
groups?
yeah, Facebook groups
Yeah.
like, Airbnb hosts and all this sort of thing.
Mm.
People go into that to get the answers to their problems. And they put these sort of problems out, and 500 people reply.
Yeah.
Um, and you still don't know what to do at the end of it. But the reality is, if you have the attitude that nothing's really a problem, it's just something to be solved at that time, it actually helps to calm you down and think it through more logically. So, for example, I talk about in my book things about us getting 4 stars instead of, 5 stars. It's because on Airbnb, a 5 star is what people expect. And five
Yeah.
star, they think of it as 5 star hotel, which is not the reality at all. It's a 5 star according to Airbnb. So they'll sometimes mark you down to 4. So what? So what? Just respond in a way that is polite and actually showcases that you understand them. You appreciate the fact that they've given you feedback. Then
Mm.
take the feedback and do something with it. If you respond like that every time, you're not going to feel that knot that happens when you get a negative review at
Almost
all.
like gratitude. It's like the whole
It's a
gratitude
gratitude.
principle.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for giving me that feedback.
Appreciation,
Absolutely.
non-perfection, imperfection rather.
The things that happen with people are people, and there's all these different personalities that are out there. Some people read things, some people don't. Some people, their expectations are huge. Sometimes, people just come in and they're so overwhelmed that they're in surprised at the brilliance that you've done in your unit. Great, you're going to get all of those things.
Yeah. Which feels
Accept
good
that.
when that happens.
It feels great, but does it mean your unit changes at all?
Mm.
Pretty much not. It's just their perception of that change, right? Or that perception of what it is. I have people downstairs at the moment that have spent 2 years trying to actually get into my unit because they
Really?
couldn't get dates. Yeah, absolutely. And they're booked there for 8 days, which is a long time for a stay in the country. And they just love it. And they keep saying, can we buy your home? Can we buy it?
Mm-hmm.
And that is so gratifying to hear because they love the decor and they love the aspect and loved everything about it. But 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, I had someone give me a 4 star because it was 5 minutes from town and not in town.
So you have no control over it.
I have no control over that at all.
Mm.
And then another person said, I'm giving 5 stars, but the reality is there's not enough restaurants in the area. And I'm like, what? So what? And all I did was in my reviews, I just said, thank you for the feedback. The best restaurant is when you're at the barbecue looking over the view. Fantastic. But if you really need to go into town, we've got 3 that are open all the time, 7 days a week. So you could go to any of those. But I really think staying at home is the best when you come into my place.
Yeah, and people might read that if that is public, and it might attract these people that want that
I do.
experience. So it might be a blessing.
Because
It might be a point of contact.
absolutely. And I just find that you just got to go with the flow. And that is hard for people with ADHD, my darling. It is
Yes,
really
which
difficult
it
because
is.
you want everything to be perfect. And there's some people that have got OCD. My daughter-in-law can't stand it if there's a speck of dirt anywhere. And that's just a real problem for her. It doesn't mean she's a bad person. It just means that she needs to make sure that her environment, it suits her at all times. People are different. So what? Great. It
It is
makes for
great.
a vastly brilliant world, doesn't it?
It does, and we need to be more aware and normalize all this difference as well,
Absolutely,
from a
we
mental
do,
health point of view.
Yep. And when you're a host, you need to deal with people constantly. And if you can't deal with people, then perhaps this is not your calling.
Which is knowing
Which is
oneself,
okay too.
and you can still
Long-term
apply yourself.
rentals are there. Yeah,
You,
you
you,
can do anything.
absolutely, absolutely. So good. There's so many things I want to talk to you about because we can go on forever. We are running out of time.
Yep.
But I always immensely enjoy having conversations with you because they just disappear like we've gone through a time machine. But I do want to ask one final question before we end. Um, how do you stay informed and updated on sustainability practices within hosting or just in general? I know the answer
Yeah.
to this. We've had a bit of a chat. Where do we go? Where do we go, Tracey?
We go to the sustainablehost.com, and if you forward slash through to blogs, or just click onto the website and click blogs, then you will see all of these different things that are happening. And I try to actually zero down onto various different aspects of hosting. So the other thing, of course, is you can read my book. If you really want to think about sustainability in real terms, read my book. Within it, you've got a free ebook you can actually download as well. Only people who've read the book can actually get that free ebook. And it's a wonderful way of just actioning everything that's in the book. You don't just get to read about it. You can actually then do it just by following a system. And that's all it is. It's simple if you're guided through it, but a lot of people don't know where to start.
And that's the biggest hurdle for
It
me
is.
and for others I can imagine. That's great. So
Yes.
you've got your book, got your free ebook, you've got your blogs, which I've noticed you've inserted so much personal experience in there,
Mhm.
which makes
Yes.
it very not just believable, but it makes it a reality for even me imagining myself getting to that space. Um, so it all starts with the book, really, doesn't it? I'm so
It
glad that you've
really
written that.
does. Thank you. Thank you. And it was a joy to write. And I just felt that there's just so many different points of view that are out there from the groups that I've been in, and that was no real answers. And nobody mentions sustainability in it. And yet, business is all about sustainability. If you can't sustain your business and sustain yourself, then you
Yes.
have no business.
So you should have your book in the mental health section and in the environment section. It should be in all the sections because it's so encompassing. Well, it's been a
Yeah.
delight. Looking forward to our next chat. I've got a list of things already that I want to drill into. Hopefully, it won't take forever to record, but we'll break it up. But we have to end now. This is Tracey, the sustainable host, and many other things. And I am Nell, the mental health guy, plant guy, tech guy, and everything else that I'm interested in at the moment. Thank you for joining us and look forward to recording our next video.
Fine. Thank you, Nelson.